All right, folks, we got that poll winding down. Jenny, it'd be great to see what those results are.
Just thinking, John.
Travis and Drew. Let's see here what we got for results.
Who knew voting could take so long?
John, Drew sent his by mail. Just wanted to let you know.
All right, so we got some results in here. So some practices have no niche to work, and thankfully that's no one here. Some of you have one, some of you have 2 niches you're going after. Some have 3+, which is great. So look, we're going to go through all kinds of different aspects of niche marketing, an extremely focused version of marketing. We're going to talk about what it is, give some great examples. We're going to interview 3 awesome advisors who are really great at marketing, really great at going deeper with their niche. So let's dive into it. Travis and Drew, welcome, guys.
Hey, John.
Glad to be here, John.
So, Jen, if you could make me presenter here, I'll dive into the presentation. But I tell you, this is one of my favorite topics. So much so, I've written about it in this book here. If you don't have it, let me know. I think all of you have it, but there's a whole chapter in the book dedicated to this and how important and how powerful this kind of marketing can be. So, this really came up with the theme of these webinars, Travis, that you can spray and pray in marketing, meaning you can do a random outreach and pray for your results, or you can be very targeted and harvest big-time results. So what does that mean to you, Travis?
Well, having Drew here with me, I can remember when we first started, my man, we did a lot of spraying and praying. There was just throwing all kinds of things up, all kinds of different events, gift ideas, educational opportunities, social things, and we would probably do it with anybody. I mean, it didn't matter who it was. Oh, you'll attend? Great. Let's take that on. And
the phone book.
That's back when we could do the old AB, phone calls as far as cold calling. I mean, it was just we'd go trolling. Remember how we used to do that? We'd go out and venture to businesses just to kind of walk around. But John, the spraying and praying, there was no aim. It was just what can we do and how much can we do it? Just hoping some of it would work. And that was stressful, to say the least. It was not efficient at all. And so, I think back to our early career. I don't think we regret that we did it. But I think as you mature as an advisor and your practice starts to mature and you start to recognize, look, I probably gravitate towards working more of these kind of clients, and I want more of these clients. Plus, you start to value your time and what you're worth a lot more. And that's why we found, target and harvest by far is the most efficient product and productive way of marketing.
It really is. And I tell you, the best practices, this is what they're doing. So we get that all the time, what's working out there. And it's really this. It's getting focused on your efforts. It's targeting with a specific segment of people. That's really the definition of niche marketing. It's focusing on your segment. What's that small piece of pie of the marketplace that you are best suited to help? So we're going to go through some of the benefits of niche marketing. We're going to take you through some examples before we get through our interviews with the 3 top practices here. You're doing a great job. So there's lots of benefits to marketing. A lot of these tie together that we'll go through. But I think above all else, we see that when you target it on a certain segment of clients, you can really enhance the relationship with these people. When you get really good at what you do and you deliver value to a small number of people, it can really bring value to them. It can really hone your expertise where you can be really, really good at dealing with that one segment. And I think there's a lot of efficiencies, too, in your practice where whatever you figure out that works for one client, it might work for other clients and other prospects. Now, I'll give you a great example. There's a really good practice, had a couple executive clients at the same company. They both have the same conundrum when it came to some options decisions that needed to be made. And you know what? They figured it out and honed their expertise with one practice. They brought a lot of value to that client, brought a lot of value to that client, enhanced the relationship. Then guess what? It was pretty efficient to bring similar solutions to that next person. And then guess what? There are other executives on the same floor had the same issues, the same problems, and it was very easy to become known. So really we're talking about being a bigger fish in a smaller pond. It really can cut out your competition. You can be a lot more visible. It's easier to become known when there's a smaller group of people or a smaller target, especially the more specific you can get. It's a lot easier to get referrals and kind of grow that word of mouth. So much connectivity with all these different benefits. And these are some of the reasons why these top practices do so well when it comes to this type of marketing. But Travis and Drew, what do you guys see? What's the top benefits you see when it comes to practices that are leveraging niche marketing?
Well, one, you can streamline a lot of processes if you're fishing out of the same pond each time, John. So you're going to create actually more time and probably better results because you're going to be able to streamline your financial planning process, your advice solutions process, probably a lot of the same investment research or time you have to put in is going to be duplicatable, and it helps you kind of get scale. And then if you get, situations where, there's a change in control or like a WARN notice mass layoff, you're going to be able to generate a lot more referrals and net inflows if something happens at one of those companies, in that example, where you're really into. Also, it kind of helps streamline the message in your meeting. So, you have clients in similar circumstances, same employer, same benefits. You're going to be able to kind of have your review meeting buttoned up tight and know exactly what the hot buttons are going to be every time. So you're really, by spending time on the front end to create all the systems for the niches, you're going to save yourself more time on the back end.
Very well said. I think, the other thing I think that comes to mind, apologize, I know you're in there, is that, a lot of practices aren't like Drew. Drew loves marketing, and he's really good at it. Out of our group, he probably has the largest concentration, or at least in the top 3 of $1 million clients. He brings on 20, 25 million of new money every year from new clients. So he loves marketing. But if that love is not there, or that love has been lost, what I found is when people start engaging in specific niches that they enjoy working with, for whatever reason, it could be the type of people, it could be that industry, it could be they think a lot alike. I see people get fired up about niche marketing. I see that spark, come up when they know they're going to be trying to work with people they absolutely enjoy. And so that's the other thing to think about is niche marketing is a lot of practice, at least when we initially work with them, if they're not passionate or very good at marketing, this is one way to get really good at it in a short period of time and really just by being more focused.
And it's really so easy to get referred on a very specific, topic or area. Like that example with the decisions on the stock options, or maybe somebody's looking to retire, they're not sure how. Whatever it might be in your specific niche, the value you bring people, the reason they get connected to the next one, it happens so much faster, so much easier, massively efficient, and a lot easier to become known. So tons of benefits there, which we'll hear more about in the interviews here. But let's talk about some examples because some of you have niches that you're working. Some of you want to add an additional niche to give you another pond to fish in. Some of you might be struggling to really find what it might be. There might be something there that's right in front of you that you can't see with clients or your natural market. So here's a whole bunch of examples that we put together that can maybe spark what a potential niche might be if you're looking to add more. So we see this a lot at specific industry, like if you're in Texas or Louisiana, maybe the oil and gas industry, maybe the medical profession could be a niche that you work in. Specific companies is really big. I mean, we've seen practices make their entire career off of helping people that work for one specific company. Can be a really big niche. You can get really good at their benefits. Retirees is a great one, and what a great segment to capture, whether it's people retiring or people that have their retirement assets, they need help managing it, and lasting retirement. Widows is certainly a segment. LGBTQ is a great niche. Divorcees is a great niche. We see some people having success in. Young professionals is one that works. Clubs, like a country club, maybe having that in common with people. You're all part of a small group that's part of an exclusive club. Same with association, same kind of mix where you've got a group of people with similar likes and similar interests. Business owners is a great one. We see some that just specialize in owners in general. Some might specialize in a specific kind of business owner. Like where I lived in North Carolina when I had my practice, some of my best clients, they own car dealerships. And I started working with one, and a second, and I'll end up working with pretty much all of them in town here. Could be a specific segment within a niche. And then any commonalities you might have with people, whether it's a hobby or an interest that you might have, like, if there's wine is an area people might enjoy. You get together about that. It could be a sporting event, a sporting team everyone likes, or people in the same section where you have season tickets. It's your favorite sporting event. These are all examples that have really worked. And Travis, this isn't all of them. This is just a small list of examples, but there's certainly more beyond this that we've seen.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is, an exercise that we use is the top shelf client exercise. And then we also look at the referral tree, but what we're asking people really to do is when they start examining their best clients is what are those commonalities with those best clients? And then based on those commonalities, we start grouping people over. So if you've never thought about the niches that are in your practice, that's a great exercise to go through because you're going to be able to see, I bet you find 3 to 5, most mature practices with 200 clients or more, they're going to find those. And so it'll be interesting for our participants today as they go back and do that and examine, what are the other categories that's going to pop up here just by going through your own existing client base and trying to uncover what are those segments out there that you're already working with.
And that's a healthy exercise to do regularly, that top shelf client exercise that we have at D2. Some of you may not have done it since you started with D2 or maybe not since the last D2 Live event that we've had. It can really help to just take another look because there might be 2 clients that have some kind of commonality that you didn't see before. Sometimes a new client being added to the book might create a new commonality, may create a new niche opportunity. So there's opportunities in front of you. There always are. It's just putting on the right lens and seeing them. And I also think that some of these that might be tied to you personally or your natural market can also create an opportunity, which we'll hear with one of our guest speakers here today, how that can kind of turn into a niche. So they're there. And we look forward to helping you do that through all the exercises and workbooks that we have at D2. Now let's go through an example, Travis, of going from a wide range down to very specific. And as we've said here, the more narrow your target, the more specific you can be, the easier it is to become known with this group, and the easier it is to get to the next person in that group. So a lot of you advisors, you're personally trying to work with clients that have 7 figures or more, $1 million or more in investable assets, which there's 5.9 million Americans that have 7 figures to invest. That's a pretty wide group. Now you narrow that down a little bit more that, hey, I want to go deeper in the medical profession. I have a client that works there. We're able to really help them out. It's very specific. Then you can go to another sector and say, you know what, surgeons are really great clients in that segment. And gosh, in fact, some of our best clients happen to be orthopedic surgeons. And you can go to a step further that, gosh, I can focus on the orthopedic surgeons of this practice or maybe of this hospital system. And we've had one advisor even taken another level than that and say, you know what, the Hispanic orthopedic surgeons at this specific place, that's who my target is. That's exactly who I'm trying to work with. And there's a smaller group. They become very known. And gosh, it's easy to dominate and be that big fish in that little pond. So, what's your thoughts, Travis, on just how to narrow this and how to get down to that smaller specific group?
Well, about 15 years ago, I worked with a consultant named Randy Schwann, and we collaborated on several things. And he talked about, it wasn't his concept, I just remember him bringing it up. It's someone else. It's called the ladder of ambiguity. And it's exactly this. You start off with something very, very general. Hey, I just want to work with people who have $1 million or more. Okay. Like you said, there's 5.9 million people. And the whole theory is you get more and more specific, the more and more you can become relevant as you get more specific. In other words, I can establish a lot more relevancy and be more relatable when I finally get to Hispanic orthopedic surgeons with XYZ practice. And I think that's what we're talking about with marketing. And it goes back to that, am I going to spray and pray versus target and harvest? Spraying and praying is the 7 figures to invest, right? That's the big audience out there. That's the ocean, so to speak. And then now we're all the way down to this really small pond with that Hispanic orthopedic surgeon. So that's really the further, the smaller the body of water in this analogy we're using, the better. I mean, what do you think, Drew?
Well, I think anytime you narrow your focus, each time you narrow down, you're also cutting out potential other competitors. So, when you start out, a mile wide at like the number 1 bullet point there, you're going against all other competitors. But by the time you get down to the 6th bullet point, you're really in a narrow field where there's only 1 or 2 probably people truly competing with you, and it's going to make it easier to find out what are their weaknesses, what are their strengths, how do you go in and battle them out. John, I ran the math while you guys talked about this. Given the numbers of how many people have 7 figures in investable assets, given how many Series 7 licensed people there are, that should be $39 million clients per advisor. And what we know at Ameriprise is
close.
It's not even close. There's a lot that maybe have 1 or none.
Average is like 3 to 5.
So there's a huge world out there that once you can navigate the gate and kind of keep getting more focus, you're going to win, and it's going to be not even close.
Yeah, and the other supporting data on these people are not hearing from their advisor, and that the other supporting data, the independent industry research that I got my hands on, that's how I found out there were 5.9 million Americans, but 1 out of 5 of them are planning to leave their advisor this year. So the closer you are to your niche, the more you're known in that area, it's going to be much easier for those people to get connected with you. You want to be thought of first. And we'll hear about some of this in the examples and from our guest speakers, but you want to be thought of first with this group as the go-to person, as the expert that helps the people in your specific niche. So let's go to some breakout rooms. We've got a lot of great advisors on here, and we have new capability in D2 webinars to do small breakouts, just like we've always done at our live events. One of the favorite of all of you, some of the best feedback we've gotten from our events is talking to individual advisors. So we're going to do that. We're going to break you into some small groups to talk a little bit more about what are your niches, why are you interested in them, and how can you go about targeting them. So that's what we'll talk about in our groups. Now, listen, they go quick. We're going to spend about 10 minutes in your individual groups, and we'll go around. Everyone takes some turn in the groups. There'll be someone from D2 in there to lead, to press the buttons and get the group launched. So just some housekeeping items. You will have to click on the pop-up on the screen to get into your group. Make sure you unmute yourself, and you'll be able to talk. And then when we go back into the main webinar with the full group like we're in now, you'll have to go back through the process of turning your camera on as if you're coming in for the first time. So when Jenny starts the breakouts, remember to click on starting your group. Go through those 3 questions. Again, they are, what is your niche? Why are you interested in it? And how are you going to target it? So 10 minutes on our breakout groups, share some great knowledge, and we'll come back and hear everyone's great insights. Some great insights there, some great sharing. Nice job, everyone. We have got some pretty special interviews coming up here. So we've got Trevor Shkiva on. Trevor, let's unmute you and get you into action here. If you want to return your camera on, go ahead and select that. But if you want to keep yourself on mute, that would be great. But Trevor, thanks so much for being on the webinar today.
Yeah, you bet, man. It's always an honor. I did have my video working. I'm not sure that it's working now, but I really need everyone to see me if possible.
So we got a nice picture of you on screen here. So a lot of you know who Trevor is. For those of you that don't know him, he's one of the all-stars when it comes to marketing in B2. Trevor's been really on a great growth mission since, gosh, I think we started working together. Maybe we met 2008, started working together 2009. Trevor really grew his GDC by 10 times, going from around 250 when we met. Went on a tear through 2008, crossing over 2.5, and really finished up last October around 2.8 million GDC. So we've seen you, buddy. Great to have you on.
Yeah. Again, hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can see you and hear you.
Great.
So let's talk about your niche, Trevor. What helped you go on such a tear and have so much growth? What was your niche?
Yeah, it was 2 companies down in Houston, and it was specific to the blue collar energy workers. And the first one was Shell. So I'm sure everyone's heard about that story in Houston. But where I was able to really get in with Shell is there was a blue collar plant down by me, and the other advisor or advisors that had that contract, you know, they didn't really come down. They didn't want to come down to my area, right? So, and then Fidelity was the 401k provider. They also didn't have an office down by us. And so I used to tell people, like, we will gladly work with you. You don't need to go up into Houston. You got everything you need right here. And so that resonated with a lot of blue collar workers. They didn't want to drive up in the traffic 45 minutes, an hour. And you know, we just picked up kind of the scraps. We weren't working with the executives. We got a few of those eventually, but we were glad to be in that space and really happy. And you know, we were competitive with that other advisor group, and then it grew where I think we got people's attention, and then they started to come down here, and Fidelity put an office down here. But by that point, we had gotten enough scale and let everyone know that, you know, we were a dominant force to be reckoned with.
So let's talk about the beginning. You recognized, hey, I've got a couple clients in this niche that turned into a few more clients. There could be something here. So take us back to the beginning. What got your attention on it, and then how did you start focusing on that group?
Yeah, no, I still remember how I first got where I got my first Shell client, and it was from a fishbowl card. I didn't even do a lunch and learn. I just called the card up, and somehow she became a client. I still remember her name, and she's still a client of my former, you know, with my current team that I sold my practice to. And I just knew that Shell was a good company, and they had good benefits. They matched 10% whether you put into your 401k or not. And then they also had a pension. And so I just started focusing on those types of companies. She did a birthday lunch for me, and there were 3 Shell people. One of them became a client. And then one of those people that came referred me to the plant manager down in this area. And then it just kind of exploded. And it took me a while, John, as you know, it takes me a while to understand and realize and grasp something. But I didn't even realize that I had 15 or 20 or however many clients it was with Shell until we did that exercise. And it was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should focus, get scale, get efficiency, and really target that group.
So it was really a long path. I mean, over a 10-year path to develop this to the point where Trevor sold. So as you went along here, we talked about how providing specific value to this group, being really invaluable to them, makes it easy to get referred to the next one. So for you, what was your expertise here? What made you special and stand out from the other advisors that were around?
Well, I mean, when you start working with that many clients, you learn everything there is to know about Shell inside and out. So I knew that they had this special education account, which could be used, it was $2,000. It could be used for anything related to education. And that's how I pitched the initial financial plan. We had to make it consistent across all Shell clients. Then I knew all there was to know about their 401k and how we could do in-service distributions and Roth after-tax Roth conversions. And I mean, I just knew so much about that, that there was no one, I mean, maybe some other advisors knew as much, but there was no one that knew more. And then it's your job. And that's what I advise our current advisors on. Like when you have a niche, you need to discover it. Don't spend all day long trying to start a new niche and then become the expert. And a lot of becoming the expert is just telling everyone that you're the expert. And then when you're in those meetings, you're delivering value. You tell them like, hey, John, the largest percentage of my client base of 400 clients is Shell. We are experts. And I would love to meet any other Shell clients that are like you approaching retirement, blah, 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 right? You go into the IPA, the world famous IPA referral script.
So let's talk about how you got to the next client. I mean, how did you shape your marketing then with this group? How did you tailor your activities and events to really go after this specific group of people?
Well, I mean, then it just becomes, okay, who are your most valuable clients? Who do you like working with the most? And then what groups do you have? Well, I loved blue collar energy. And the reasons for that was, number one, they all had a lot of money. You have a company that's matching you. My other company matched 7%, had a pension, lump sum option. Shell, some of them had a lump sum option. But you're going to get 10% whether you put into your 401k or not. I mean, that's pretty stinking amazing, right? Benefits that were unmatched. Plus, I liked working with them. I never did like working with, I'm really close to NASA down here, but I don't like working with engineers, right? That became apparent very quick. I didn't enjoy that at all. I liked working with folks that wanted someone to trust and checked off all the other boxes, and really enjoyed when I put an event on. They came to all the events, they referred. So those were the types of clients that I wanted to work with. And then it just became, with your help, stealing other stuff from other advisors like Drew. Like, how do I expand this, gain scale, which in turn gains me profitability in everything I do? From our birthday lunches, retirement parties, events, a specific referral script for me and my AFAs. That is what we're going to leverage. We did specific events. I can think of one in particular that was just for this group of clients. And it really grew into this reunion event. We called it Beer, Bugs, and Barbecue. We're down here in Houston, and it's all about crawfish and barbecue, and then we've got this microbrewery thing for the hipsters that are into that down here. And so we just had a lot of fun with it, man. And then it became anyone that ever worked at Shell that was already retired currently working there, invite everybody else, and it was a reunion, meaning the retired folks hadn't seen the current people that were still working in a year, and it just grew and grew. And I leveraged social media, and I was, basically just trying to get attention for everyone that possibly worked at Shell, did or used to. Like, you got to be working with Trevor.
Really, really great story. Now, so let's put your advice cap on. What advice would you give to other advisors on either developing the niche or accelerating the niche like you did?
Yeah, so you can develop a niche from nothing if you really want to. But what I would advise is look at your existing client base. I can think of an advisor that we were talking and trying to think through this exact conversation, and they were telling me, that they're a boutique firm and that this is their niche, and we're thinking through that, and they actually we talked about this company that's well known to everybody. They already had 6 or 8 clients with this company that has unbelievable stock options. And if they're at a certain level, they're getting 200 to 250,000 in these stock options every year. And I'm thinking, don't reinvent the wheel here. Focus on what you already have, and then go from there. Because finding a niche, that's kind of back to the spray and pray, or developing a new niche. It can be done, but you need an in. And when you have an in, it's real easy to blast that door wide open, as opposed to like you don't have an in, and it takes a lot of effort to figure out how to get that foot in the door.
Awesome story. Any thoughts there from Drew or Travis on Trevor's story here?
Trevor, the thing that resonated with me, and Trevor, congratulations, you're a great marketer, is that last story. We have an AFA that keeps wanting to find a niche, but they've picked up 6 or 7 clients in the last 2 years from the exact same place. They're all $500,000 or above. Well, you've got a niche. So, a lot of times in sports, how many teams do you know that they can run for 310 yards a game, and all of a sudden they think their quarterback's not good and they doesn't pass for 300 yards a game. Keep doing what gives you wins, and I think it's easier to develop a niche than most people realize.
Yeah, well, and not only that is like, you want to do things that are successful, so you get that momentum rolling, and then other opportunities will arise. The other big niche that I eventually uncovered came from that niche, just because they were another blue collar worker that changed companies, and then I explored that, right? So these things start to spider off, and then you can be more selective. But if you're just thinking like, oh, this would be great and I'm going to be an expert, I just don't think that's the most efficient way to begin to, try to get this niche started.
Awesome, Trevor. You look great today, by the way.
Well, I don't know if that is sarcasm, but I'll take it as being very, very genuine, and I'll thank you. I've been doing this new thing. It's called intermittent fasting with a little bit of low carb. The only person that would know about that is probably Brian Grizak, maybe Lester. They can tell you a lot about it, but I won't take my shirt off, but just know that things are going well.
Oh, Trevor. Thank you.
Hey, all the best. D2, man. D2 is the way to go. And check out the IPA method. It is storming the nation. It's unbelievable, the content there. IPA, improve, praise, ask.
There we go. Thanks, Trevor.
We'll see ya.
So our next guest here, who's already been here, Mr. Drew Watson, those are some of his accolades there. He was telling me earlier at break that he's been CAC more than what's there. So we know that, 13, 14 times. So Drew, let's talk a little bit about your niche marketing. You really have 3 primary niches. There's 2 companies, and then there's 1 industry. So why don't we piggyback on what Trevor was saying? Let's talk about the companies and how they became niches and some of the things that you've done to really let that flower and bloom.
I thought we'd talk intermittent fasting and take our shirts off. But that'll be the after hours.
That's next month. That's next month.
That's the Cinemax After Dark version.
Right.
Well, in all seriousness, yes, we've got several niches we're focused on, but generally, probably our first was a couple of businesses in the gas pipeline business, and a lot like Trevor was saying, we kind of started with a trickle. We got into the company and were able to do workplace financial planning benefits. We did seminars up and down the pipeline for them, but we really became the expert.
Yep.
As Trevor said, be a self-proclaimed expert. As Bosco Watson would say, a self-ordained minister. So be a self-ordained expert on where you are in your niche, and that will go a long way. And as you develop, knowledge about the benefits, I think as much as it's important to know the facts about the benefits, the one thing you have to know, you've got to set out either on a computer spreadsheet or on old-fashioned drawing paper and say, this is the company flow chart. This is
the organizational chart.
Yes.
Yep.
The org chart from, the grunts on the ground to the CEO. Once you're in big, you will be able to do that for each department. And probably what you'll find is you've got more ends, let's say, with one of the pipelines, the engineering department, tax and legal is where we're in. The other pipeline, we were in also, general counsel, but marketing. So we know which departments within, so that's really kind of taking that niche and really focusing down to know, look, if somebody's retiring from the accounting department, we got to be scratching our heads why we didn't get that client. So that's where you want to take it down to inside a business, inside a department, to within the department of who's doing what. And you want to keep that information updated because it makes it great when you ask for referrals, when you ask for your clients to bring their coworkers, who are these people that are coming in, and that gives you kind of an overall inside knowledge on who are your advocates, who are people that maybe are advocating for some of your competitors, and how do you work around that, and how do you protect your clients from the competitors as well.
So I want to make sure that you guys understand something he's saying here. You guys understand he's built the organizational chart. Drew knows in every department what their names are, what their role is. He knows which are their clients. You're asking your clients in that department for referrals to their coworkers and to bring them to events. So, I want people to understand that's how myopic you get in this. That's how purposeful and very specific you work that niche.
Yeah, exactly, and it works. Retirement parties, when we were able to have kind of big client events, just as Trevor said, you kind of get the old school gang getting back together. Old home week. So basically, people that work together that hadn't seen each other since they retired, they interact with people that are still active. They'll talk about what's going on, et cetera. So that's the level you want to build, because then it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling machine. Now, you want to be kind of spontaneous, but planned spontaneity with contacting these people. One of our niches, they had a 401k change. The top people knew about it Friday. They told me, they sent me the email that I had to set on it. So Monday, out of respect for them, Monday afternoon, we sent kind of a blast email to everybody in the organization saying, hey, we know you've had these 401k changes. Here's who it pertains to most specifically. If you're in this group, give us a call and we'll tell you how these funds would impact your situation. And here's an overview. So, clients appreciate that. They'll pass. And by the way, the very last paragraph is most important. Also, as a favor to me, if you have other people in your department that you think might have questions about this, forward them this email with my contact information. So that's the key, to be able to give them something actionable, that if sometimes people want to refer you, they don't know how. This is a little bit of a nudge to say, hey, this is where the information is and how to go get it.
So one of the things I know about Drew that he does really well, and it's he just brought it to our attention, I'm just going to elaborate, is he's very good at coaching his clients on who he's looking for and coaching them how to tell the story about him and how to get them to engage with Drew. And that's very important. We call that positioning. He's very good at positioning himself to his clients so they know how to market for them. And there again, it makes it a lot easier, right, Drew? If it's inside a company and inside a certain department, you know, boom, 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 talk about that ladder we were talking about. It makes it a lot easier than for them to look. When you've pretty much narrowed it down to, if there's 20 people in the department and you've got 5 of them as clients, hey guys, I need those other 15.
Yeah, forward this along. It's non-threatening, which is a great way to get referrals. It's a very non-threatening thing. So you know, they know they're going to have a change. They know they may have questions about it. In the department meeting, they will kind of go back and forth. So you always want to build on the success you have in the niche by looking for that next thing. So after you have the organizational chart, the key too is kind of who's going to be the successors. So, you know, once you get a $2 or $3 million client, you know that's what that position compensates over time. You want to make sure you're positioned in a way that you get the guy or the woman that's moving up in the organization to fulfill that role. So a lot of times I'll just ask, hey, can I get an introduction to your replacement if I don't already know them? A lot of times we've gone so far to facilitate changes. You know, within these 2 organizations, I've had a lady move. We had a client that retired. His job came open. I knew it was going to happen. We kind of, you know, whispered in her ear. We were able to negotiate a great package for her. So she's forever thankful, loves it, worked out great. You know, and we know the continuity on the org chart. Here's who's in these departments, and this is where it will go. We will get, and I'm sure Trevor had this too, once you're in an organization, you'll get kind of unsolicited referral or someone will show up on the phone, they want an appointment, and they come in. You know, obviously you want to always ask, who did you work with? You'll kind of know by the department, but it's good to hear them because you may get a couple of names of people that aren't clients of yours yet, but they're advocating you. So that makes sense. Those people will be ones that get invitations to events, and it's probably just a matter of time before they become clients.
Well, let's shift gears. That's great information. Let's talk about your niche in the industry of medical professionals. This could pertain to, now we're moved down beyond a company, now it's more of I'm working with physicians. So talk about how you got started in that and how you've been able to build up that niche.
Well, kind of, you know, it's where do you rob banks, you go where the money is, grow up in a small town, you know, who drives all the, German cars? They're all doctors. You know, who drives all the pickup trucks? Well, it's, the guys working in a coal mine. So, you want to work with the doctors. So it became clear by studying the medical profession, not all doctors are compensated the same. And, where you want to go is after you look at medical professionals, you want people that have either surgical privileges, and if you have those, you want people that own part of a surgery center, because that's another stream of income. That's another way you can kind of get in with advice on the doctors. That's where I found the real differentiating factor is there's doctors that are kind of, they have the allure of the return, but really you want to look at first, physicians, typically you want them to own their own practice. You want them to have some type of surgical privileges and or other entities, because that opens up a whole Pandora's box of tax planning opportunities that no one's really probably sat down and explained to them. And then obviously you want to kind of focus from there, where are you getting your specialists? We have a lot of orthopedic surgeons. I've taught Brian how to do it. He's got, his first one, but we followed the playbook and knew what to say. So kind of going back to that self-ordained expert, a lot of it is knowing, when to say amen and when to ask for the amen. Mm-hmm. And the doctors realize, who really knows what they're doing versus who's talking about it. Now, the other part of the physician world is now you have a lot of what I call captive physicians, that they're hospital owned or they're just kind of regular employees that happen to be doctors. We really don't have much experience there because they can put money back in a 401k plan and that's about it. So we focus our niche on the ones that own their own business where there's tax planning availability there to help really basically, justify your advice fee. They also have investable assets that would be their own retirement plan, their personal money, and with these other entities, each one of those entities is an opportunity to go get other professionals. Surgery centers have multiple partners. They all talk, what are you doing? Are you deferring any income? What can you do? So you want to identify where the opportunity is and then really think through with the end in mind of, okay, who do you want to be sitting across the table from because where is the money coming from? So, I would say anybody that wants to be focused on physicians, you really want to be focused on the people that have other incomes coming in through either, facilities, labs, surgery centers, radiology. That's where you can do your most work. And obviously, the proof's in the pudding, those are the ones that make the most money.
Right. So what Drew is articulating here, and he's using the physician market to get down to it, is, hey, your niche needs to be lucrative, or lucrative enough by your standards. And, we had Bob Bonfilio talk about this earlier on a different segment. And, that's a key factor here. You may love working with this profession, but if it's going to bring down your average GDC or AUM per client, I'm not saying don't do that, but I don't know if that needs to be a niche either. And so Drew just gave a great example of how to assess, in this case, physicians, but you need to look at your niche and look at those same factors to see what within that niche, is there something, or a segment I need to work with?
Well, and a great start, if you want to get into this, and, we're not in an urban area. And so I know we're the third largest city in Kentucky, but that's like saying you're the tallest, Munchkin in the Wizard of Oz original cast. So that doesn't mean much, but when you're in a bigger city, if you want to get into physicians, start at the medical school level, because not all these kids will have student debt. Obviously, some will, and some will be kind of insurmountable. Mm-hmm. But there will be kids in those classes that don't have any student debt. They're making $60,000 to $70,000 a year in the, I think intern space or when they're in their rotation, going through medical school, and that's when you can kind of get your relationship. I'd say my FVP will fall out of the chair when he gets our reports next week, but I sold a disability policy last week. So, who needs a $16,000 a month disability policy? A new doctor.
New doctor, yeah.
So you've got, that's the type of niche you can get into, and in an urban area, that would be who you want to get in with, is at the medical school level, before they go out, kind of make their final years. If you can kind of show them some good tax planning, it's probably going to be the last years they're ever going to be able to do a Roth. That's what opened the whole deal with these boys is, hey, you're not going to be able to do a Roth forever. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, here's the rules. Mm-hmm. So you start there. You're willing to, one, kind of have a lost leader with that Roth IRA, but also what you're doing is you're getting a 26 to 28-year-old person into your practice that is going to make more than $400,000 a year for, lifetime value of client for 40 years. And guys, we all have clients that are 80 years old with $2 million, but tomorrow's not guaranteed to anybody. So if you can kind of buff up the back of the book with those up and comers, it's just like stocking up on draft picks. So, you're going to have a great opportunity sometime, and they'll pay you a financial planning fee. They need insurance. So they need a lot of products that we offer early on that makes it worth to kind of go after that niche even a little bit deeper.
Right. Well, I can just tell you, for those of you who were concerned earlier about Drew taking off his shirt, he's actually pretty dang smart. So, so that was good. Good that you brought us some insights there. John, any follow up on what you heard from Drew there before we go to our final guest here?
I think a great way for takeaway for everyone is just the level of targeting Drew's been able to go to of not just knowing I want people from this organization, but getting to know the organization, who's in what spot, who are we not working with in this department. I think that's a good learning for everyone, that there's always another level to go to. And I think for anyone, if you think you've gone far enough, think again. There's next levels to go to. There's more you can do. There's more ways to get access. So those really awesome insights, Drew. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Perfect. We're going to go to our final guest, Mr. Michael Hancock from Charlottesville, Virginia. Michael, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Have you opened a bottle of wine yet? I know it's 5 o'clock there.
No, I'm at the office by myself.
Oh, okay. Well, if you saw my office, I have stashes of everything in case there's always a need. Maybe we should send you a bottle.
I won't decline it.
So Michael, great to be with you. Michael's fun to be with. He's all about wine. He's the reason why, for some of you who've seen our workbook, Purple Teeth Marketing, that originated from Michael, because he loves to incorporate wine in as many events as possible. And usually we have him with a picture of purple teeth on there. So, but Michael, I want to talk about your two particular niches. One that you somewhat inherited, and I think that's important there again to pay attention. And then one that you've been working for several years. So let's talk about what happened when you bought the practice out in Palm Springs, and what happened with the niche there.
Sure. Over the years I've accumulated 4 or 5 LGBTQ clients, and it wasn't a big part of the practice or anything like that, but enjoyed working with them. They had special needs back when you couldn't have legal marriage and all that. And then when I bought this practice in California, it turned out that probably half of the practice was LGBTQ clients. So then I quickly said, well, darn, this is actually a niche I need to actually go after, because it's ready made for me. And so, I had to give it some thought. I had to get a feel for the area, what they were like and all that. And what I found is most of them were retired. And then a lot of them did a lot of volunteering. So I sort of put 2 and 2 together. So I joined several nonprofit groups in the area. We started participating in a food bank, things like that, just to start getting our name out there. We started holding events, things like that. And I bought the practice in 2017. So the first year or two was just getting to know the clients, learning what they're all about. And then really about a year and a half ago is where I said, all right, we're going to join some nonprofit groups and things like that. And then we started trying to make the inroads. And then we started doing happy hours and things like that. And then lo and behold, we had one of the clients become an advocate for us. Now, it hasn't turned into too many clients yet, but they are advocating for us, which is really, really important. They feel like we understand them. We have made personal friendships with them and things like that. And that's, at the end of the day, is what people have to know, that you care about them, and that you care about what they care about. And it just took me a couple of years to sort of feel them out, figure out what was important to them, and sort of dived into that after that.
So yeah, I like what you're saying, Michael. I mean, you there again, it's you uncovered something, you pivoted, you did some research, you started seeing what some of those advocates were involved with. You started getting involved with the nonprofits. I know you tied some of the social things you did with them around the nonprofit activities and so forth. So I mean, you really started understanding the audience and then acted upon that. So anything that working that LGBTQ market, is there anything kind of like Drew talked about, the analysis of working with physicians and kind of the different segments there? So what advice would you have to someone if they're going after that market, I guess?
Well, they want to know that you understand their uniqueness. They're very different from let's face it, the LGBT community in many ways has been pushed down, held back, and all that, and they want to feel like you understand where they're coming from. That they still struggle with a lot of that even today. They want to know that you understand that. They have family relationships that are not in good shape. So you really have to help them through estate planning and things like that, and you have to be willing to bring up uncomfortable subjects which actually turn out to be comfortable for them, but they're actually more uncomfortable for you, as you don't normally see those kinds of family dynamics and all that, or at least less so. So you got to show them that you care about them, that you want to get to know them and things like that. They're really like anybody else, but it's just a little bit different, I guess. Best way to describe it.
Okay. So because of the uniqueness, make sure you take the time to understand their uniqueness and some of the pains and challenges they've gone through. That's what I'm hearing.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's talk about a niche that started several years ago, and that's the University of Virginia. For those of you who don't know, the UVA is right there in Charlottesville. It's a big college town. So talk a little bit about your affiliation and affection towards UVA and how that's turned into a lot of clients for Oakhart.
Sure. Well, in my first year of business, we had just moved here in January of '92, and I was appointed in August of '92. Didn't know a soul. My wife was a neonatal intensive care nurse at the University Hospital, and you know, I was getting the right number of leads and all that, and trying to figure out how to cold call and all that. And then people started asking my wife what I did, and she said, "Well, he's the financial advisor." And I'm like, "Oh, I need to talk to him." So in my first year, I actually picked up a lot of clients who were nurses for the most part. My very first year is really where a lot of my business came from. And my wife just took my cards to work, and she had them at the ready, and then she would tell them what I did. He's a financial advisor. He helps people make good decisions with their money. And then about 3 years after that, an advisor here in Charlottesville left the company, and I was assigned about 40 of her clients. And the clients that were assigned were primarily University of Virginia, Curry School of Education faculty professors who even further down in the narrowing a niche all wrote textbooks, just to give you an idea. And so it was, I think, 4 of them, something like that. It wasn't too many. It was 4 or 5, but it wasn't too many. And none of them were retired or anything like that. And they're still all clients today. But it's now grown from 4 or 5 faculty, Curry School of Education, to now we have, I think, upwards of 28 faculty professionals as clients. We've branched beyond the Curry School of Education, but out of that, we still have like 20, I think, are still Curry School of Education professors. Many are now retired. Out of that also came a professor who was referred to me, I think, in 2008 now, or 2006, and he became an advocate for us as well. So no, I keep talking about an advocate for me. You want to find clients who are advocates. They don't just mind what you're saying. They want to see you succeed. And he actually ended up referring me to the American Psychological Association, which has many different divisions. And I actually managed the money for 5 different divisions of the American Psychological Association, of which it's over $10 million in assets under management just with these 5 divisions. But anyway, so the University of Virginia, I think out of our roughly 600 clients, we've got, I think 90 of them are University of Virginia employees, whether pharmacists, physicians, faculty, staff, things like that. And part of the equation of working with these people is you have to know them, know what's important to them, know the benefits at work. As I was telling somebody earlier, the University of Virginia has 4 different benefit packages, one for faculty, one for physicians, one for staff, one for medical professionals. When I say medical professionals, I'm talking about the medical technicians, the nurses, and things like that, but not the doctors. So, and you got to know your way around all that. So when you're sitting in a P&M with somebody, you can speak their language. In fact, because you know it so well, you start telling them stuff they didn't even know they had available to them. I can't tell you how many clients didn't know they had a 457 plan available to them, or knew they had another retirement plan through the University Physicians Group, which is separate from the university. So there's actually 5 benefit plans, just so you know. It's another retirement plan. And then on top of that, they have a pension plan they don't even know that they have. Because every year they get this guide, in July of each year, they get this book of this compensation package. They don't even know how to read it. So what you have to do is really educate yourself about all the benefits. We know the director of benefits at the University of Virginia. We can call him directly. I'm now in the University of Virginia Financial Advisors Forum, and I just got my first referral from the guy who runs it I think 5 months ago. So that's the University of Virginia it just keeps on paying off.
That's awesome, Michael. And there again, just listening to him, you can hear he understands their benefits.
Yeah.
thought there was 4, you remember there's 5, you probably keep going and reciting things that's just probably unusual for each plan. It might be usual for us, but unusual because they just don't know. And Michael, you've done some things too for exposure. I remember this past year during college basketball season, I think you guys got a pretty good basketball team. I've heard that
apparently so.
you guys did some sponsorships there to make sure people knew you were part of UVA. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things that we did is we became a sponsor of the basketball team. It was actually a year they won the championship, and we're trying to decide whether we're going to do it again this year. But essentially, we got our name up on the scoreboard at every single game multiple times that, hey, we're a sponsor of the team and all that. And what was unique about it is one of the interns, his father actually runs the scoreboard. So we're supposed to have a limited number of exposure opportunities. He said, the hell with that. He's putting us up all the time up there, which is really good. Granted, I think there was 20,000 I think we spent, but it was lots of great exposure. My clients would tell us they saw it. We actually also got tickets to, I think, 4 games. And so what do you think we did? We invited university faculty to the game, and then they brought guests to the game. So we're actually able to dovetail upon that to even build further relationships with clients and people they thought would be interested in working with us. So worked well.
Well, it's just a great example of you know where they're located. You know it's a great basketball program. You're getting tremendous exposure to the area that you're trying to get more exposure and get more clients, right? Your dollars followed your niche market, which there again,
yep.
When we think about niche marketing and how purposeful and how more focused and myopic it is, that's a great example of having your dollars follow that.
Yeah. And they're fun. I would say it's Trevor said, I don't like working with engineers. They want to like double, triple, quadruple check everything you do. I want to work with people who trust me, who, hey, you know what you're doing, go do what you do so I can go do what I do. And that's really important to me. Right.
Any advice you'd give to anybody out there looking to do niche marketing based on your experience and success?
Yeah, I mean, first I'd go through your client base and figure out what some of the niches that you enjoy working in, that you have. Everybody has it. Sometimes you're just staring at you just don't know it. So you got to go through and say, where do 10 of my clients work, or 5, or whatever the number is, and then educate yourself as much as you can about that niche. Who are they? Are they primarily women? Are they primarily men? Are they engineers? Are they doctors? Whatever it is that they do, then educate yourself about the benefits and all that, and then go after it. I think you can start to invite them to private dining events. You can do wine tastings, golf outings, hiking, whatever it is that they like to do. Find out what they like to do, and then start doing events around that. If a lot of these folks are close to retirement, well, then you start doing a retirement planning kind of seminar for folks who are like, say, 3, 4, 5 years away from retirement. You invite your clients, and you make it a fun event with some education thrown in, or just make it a fun event. And I know we do a lot of these events, and as I think Drew was saying, it's like old home week. They come in, they're all retired, they haven't seen each other, and they have a good time talking to each other and getting to know each other again. So it's really good to sort of see that interaction between all the clients.
Great advice, Michael. Well, thank you for being on today. Drew, thank you. I know you got to get to your daughter's golf tournament.
Thank you, guys.
So, John, I'll kick it back to you. What's next here as we close this thing down? Great job, Michael. Great job, Trevor.
Thanks. I got to run. Bye.
Hey, thanks. Let's do a quick breakout group here. Let's talk about in your group what best practices resonated most with you. What are you going to implement? And if there's time, share a best practice that you might have with the group. So again, what resonated with you? What are you going to implement? And what best practice might you have for the group? So remember to click on to get into your group. Make sure your phone's off mute once they're in, and then we'll do a quick closing. And just like before, you can get your camera back on. So enjoy your groups here. Lots of good feedback, and let's share some insights with the others. That was awesome. Really great sharing there. from everyone. So really great insights there. I think it's always great to hear from some really nice examples. It's great to have these breakout focus groups and kind of share insights and takeaways and what we're going to do. So thanks to my group, we sure had a lot of good best practices floating around there, a lot of good insight. So Travis, any closing thoughts here in our last minute or two as we wrap things up?
Well, I mean, hey, we've made the case for niche marketing. So now it's just about going out and building your own case. And that's why we're here. We're here to help. You heard 3 experts who just have built fantastic practices around niches. We obviously talked about a lot of the benefits, some that are out there. So let's just go for it. We're here to help.
Yeah, and I think whatever the next step is to take for you, whether you're trying to narrow down to what your niche might be with some of the exercises you mentioned, or whether you're trying to take things a step further, like all 3 of them have done over long periods of time. Wherever you might be, we've got lots of resources for you. We've got a workbook around niche marketing. Travis mentioned some of the exercise we have, like the top shelf client exercise, which can help you recognize some of these niches and commonalities among your top clients. So go for it. Take that next step. Stay in close touch with your D2 coach. We know a lot about this. We've helped a lot of practices with this, but take it to the next step. Identify what is the next step for you. It's a long journey. It's never over, but keep taking that next step and go to some of the levels that Drew's gone. So awesome stuff today, Travis. I agree. The case for niche marketing is in, and it's going to be a great replay. I think this one will definitely be a keeper.
Absolutely. And we appreciate everybody being here today. And if you're just listening to it on a recording, we're glad to help. Dynamic Directions here. We help on a multitude of levels and topics. And I know, John, you and I have a personal passion around marketing. So this is always fun for us to get together and talk about how to grow your business organically. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay bullish. We'll see you soon.